Well, hey there, and welcome to the Mom Biz Cafe, the podcast where we talk about life as a self-employed mom, entrepreneurship, and small business marketing. Sit back, grab a coffee, and listen along with us at the Mom Biz Cafe.
Thank you for joining me today, Shawnee. We are going to talk today about founding your business on time freedom. I've been thinking about this so much lately, so I'm just excited. I always like to do a little intro, to myself for those who don't know me, and then I'll pass it over to you. And I like to start with kind of like how we met. So I'll do my intro first, and I'll pass it over to you. So my name is Brittany. My company is called Empty Desk Solutions. We do social media marketing, social media content marketing, specifically for small business and entrepreneurs. And more recently, we've launched our Confident with Content in the Community, which is a content subscription. So personal brands and mortgage brokers right now, until we add more industries, they join and they get monthly content templates sent to them so they can DIY their social. So we're helping the people that don't want to outsource to the agency model. They want to do it themselves, but have some templates and save time, all the way up to the people spending, thousands a month to have content done for them. So that's what we do. I have 4 little kids at home. Well, 2 of them are little, 2 of them are older, 18 months old, 5, 12, and 15. So we're all over the map over here. And I started my business to be able to spend more time with my kids. And I'm excited to talk today because I feel like over the years, it's been like, I started this to spend more time with them. And now I find days where I'm fighting to figure out how to work less and have that balance. So over to you for your intro.
All right. So I am Shawnee. I am the founder of Shawnee Rose Consulting. I'm a system strategist and a client experience expert. Basically, I help creative service providers to cultivate time freedom and elevate their client experience by streamlining the inner workings of their business so that they can focus on what they love to do. I am a mom and a wife. I have one and done. One little boy. And he is honestly the reason I started my business as well. And why time freedom is the goal for my business and what kind of drove the passion to help others achieve it.
So amazing. There are those little motivators, aren't they? Right? We're like,
yes.
Life is one way, and then we have kids, and we're like, oh, we have to find another way because this doesn't work. I've had many jobs in the past that I really loved. I loved the people I worked with. I loved what I learned, and it was great. But thinking about going back and working at a desk for someone else 9 to 5 every day, destroys my soul. I think about it, and I'm like, I can't do that. Sometimes people ask, well, what would you do, Brittany, if tomorrow your business failed and it was just poof, it was gone? Would you work for someone else? And I'm like, no, I would start another business.
I was about to say the same thing.
I would start something else, maybe not even completed. So really cool. Our stories are kind of similar in that way.
Yeah.
And we met through Female Entrepreneur Association, I think. Yep. We're actually connected in some other ways on Instagram and stuff. But I think I had, now, do you remember if you put out the request or I did? They have these collaboration threads. And I probably put out a request there. So they have these different threads, do this, do that, or looking for these type of people. And they have I can't recall what day of the week it is, but anyway, some threads, if you're looking to collaborate, type in the comments what you want to collaborate on. And my word of the year, my word for 2022 is collaboration. So I'm all about that. And I had posted, this is a podcast I'm doing for fun. This is my audience who would want to come on. And somehow we connected that way, I think. If I'm wrong, but I think,
that's it.
And then we exchanged some emails back and forth. I checked out your website and I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to this girl because my people and myself will just eat up this info. So I had a couple questions come in when I posted in my Instagram stories about the 3 or 4 topics we were going to talk about. And then most of these questions are actually from me. I'm being selfish, but I know it's going to help listening as well. So we have we have 3 or 4. I think we actually had 4 kind of subtopics. So why don't we start right off at the top? And the first one is how to confidently set business hours. So I will let you take that over because some of us me included, hands up, do not have proper business hours?
Okay. So this is kind of a huge determinant when you are setting up your business for time freedom, because you cannot create this hustle culture in your business and then just cross your fingers and hope that one day you're going to be able to step back and just have everything run for you. You have to prioritize it from day one. So honestly, you start there by scheduling your life first. So before I will allow clients to book for a month, I like to set some time aside at once the current month has booked, I set the next day aside to basically look over my calendar. And I first will go through and schedule all of my personal events. So kids' time off from school, any vacation time, anything such as that. And then after that, you kind of go into your business goals, because we as entrepreneurs need to prioritize what we envision for our own business as well as for our clients. So my favorite way to do this, honestly, is to kind of give each day a theme. But for me personally, it's Monday and Friday. I work on my business. The other 3 days I work in theirs. And then you just do all of your productive, like scaling your business, things like that, all of the tasks you need to do within those days. Then you allow clients to book. But the second thing that I really want to talk about within this subtopic here is that we all work differently. So because of our circadian rhythm, our very nature of who we are, whether you're a morning bird or a night owl, you work differently than the person next to you. You're more productive at different times during the day. So I like to do this, what's the word I'm looking for? Exercise with my clients personally, where I have them track their time for a week and basically write down what they did, what time they did it, what times they were most productive. And that way, at the end of the week, they can really look over it and find their most productive time so that they can use this for focused work, like your client work. The time that you're very productive, but not as productive. And this is great for your client calls or working within your own business. And then that third time is when you're not very productive at all. And basically you're going to use this time for your rest time, because the average, like the typical human brain needs a break every 90 minutes. Now, caveat on that, entrepreneurs like me with ADHD are very different, but I can hyper focus on a task for 5 hours and think I was working on it for 20 minutes, or I can need a break every 20 minutes because I can't focus. So honestly, it has to work for you.
Yeah.
Then you're going to combine those two things. So what times are you most effective? What times do you want to work, and how much time do you actually need to be working to move the needle?
Yeah.
And then set your business hours from there. So they should basically encompass your productive hours.
And when we're talking about business hours, right? So the hours that we're working might be different than like our, business hours that we like display to our clients. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had some comments in our little show notes that just to the first part, when you're just like the very beginning, to start by scheduling your stuff, like your life, your goals, your kids, all of that stuff first, and then look at the productive times and when you're going to fit that in. Really so key. Like I know, I bet you 95% of the people that I work with don't do that, myself included. It's like we're doing it totally backwards. There was I'm not sure where I heard the quote, but it was something to do with like, are you scheduling your life around your business or your business around your life? And I was like, oh wow, I'm totally scheduling my life around my business. And at first, you would like to join us? At first, it wasn't that way. It was like, oh, I'm gonna work you know, when I want to, because it was like the new freedom was amazing. And I can make money on my own time, right? But over time, I just took on more and more and more and more. And before you know it, it's like I'm trying to fit in little pockets of time with the kids and for myself, and how, you know, we're going to burn out, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people already experienced that burnout. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting. The exercise you talked about that you do with your clients where you get them to track, how do you get them to track that? Do you have a document you send them? Do you ask them to like track it on their phone? How do you typically do that?
So it kind of depends. A lot of people like it to be as automated as possible. So I recommend, it's called Rescue Time. And they actually have like a free 2-week trial. So you can cancel it and save yourself a little money after you're done. Or you can just use pen and paper. It depends on how you like to really see the data. When my clients do it, I read the Rescue Time data for them. But for all of you listening, you can easily just use pen and paper and write down 9 o'clock. This is what I did. This is how productive I felt. Or you can use Rescue Time. However, it only tracks the activities on your computer and your phone. So those activities that some of us have that are not online aren't going to be tracked. So you're going to have to track those manually either way.
And I think it really served two purposes, because they're going to see, well, hopefully where they're more productive and not, so you can figure out, you know, how to schedule in when they're working, but also like, what are they doing that might be wasting tons of time scrolling social, right, or whatever. And what tasks are they doing over and over and over that they might be able to outsource, which of course fits into a business like yours, or even offering services, right? Like, I know people that I work with, if they were to track what they're doing on their phone, I guarantee you there's going to be 2 hours a day or more stuff on social. And I'm saying, like, that's 2 hours a day. Like, what is the value of those 2 hours of your time? Could you have someone else do that for you? Like, develop and schedule your content. I'm only using that as an example, right? But someone who does something that's in that list that you don't physically have to do. So I've done
does it in a streamlined way.
Yes, I've done an exercise like that, not with the app, but similar in the past, where I just tracked, and I only did it for a few days. And it was like kind of shocking how many things I looked at. I tried to put them in 2 buckets. Like, this needs me, like physically no one else can. And I don't need to do this. Like, someone else could do this. And it was like incredible how much time, like, wow, I'm just wasting so much time. And then of course there's a matter of, well, how much does the help cost? And, you know, where is that budget and whatever. But at least that first step of identifying, I need to do this or I don't, was a big eye opener for sure. I bet your clients, I'm sure, discover this. I'm doing this. So that's really cool. And I like your note about everybody working differently. I'm on this like journey. People who follow me will know this and laugh at me. I've been trying to be the 5 a.m. wake up for like over a year. No therapy. I've tried everything, and I got to go back and listen to those recordings actually. I'm trying to figure out, like, because as moms, right, we're like, okay, where, if our kids need us between, well, if they're in school, like, let's say, okay, they need us in the morning before they go to school. If you have another little one at home like me, you have, you know, there's no time. And then after school until they go to bed. So I was kind of in this like cycle of working lots at night when they slept. That was my life for a long time. I'd work 9 to like 2 a.m. and that. But maybe that was okay for that season of the business. It was like, well, that's what I have to do. Maybe getting up at 5 is like this thing that, you know, I only see people that don't have those other time commitments. They can do it. I have a baby still nursing. Maybe that's just not realistic for me right now because she's still up all the time. Right? But I like that you put that out there, saying like, this is how you schedule it, but keep in mind your schedule, it's not wrong if it looks different from someone else's, right?
Yeah. So like for me personally, I'm not a morning person. It takes me a while. So my mornings are generally like, I get myself and my son up, I get him ready for school. I have coffee before I take him to school. And then when I come home, I start work. But that hour before, I don't even touch my computer. I won't even look at my phone because I don't want to deal with that. Lack of a better way to say it. Honestly, it's just that hour sets the tone for the rest of my day.
Yeah.
And I fit in little ways, like I listen to podcasts on the drive and stuff, but fit in little ways to like get myself motivated for the day. But until I am home from dropping him off, work does not exist. That's how I operate, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So in my business hours, they don't start until 10 o'clock. And that's so that I can come home, eat breakfast, and get ready before I have to hop on client calls,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing the resource as well. What people, and again, if you missed it, it was called Rescue Time. You don't want to use a document. So, okay, I think that sort of wraps up our first point, which was kind of how to set your business hours. The one thing I guess, maybe it's in my notes down. Oh yeah, it's in setting boundaries. So that's our second thing. So let's move on to that then. Our second subtopic is setting healthy boundaries with clients. And I'm so bad at this. So I'm also excited for this part. So I'll let you take it away on this section as well.
Oh, this is such a sticky topic. Like, I love it and sort of internally kind of hate it at the same time, because
you're not meant to be comfortable, right?
It's hard. Yes, it is hard. And I completely understand that. However, if you want this structure to your life and business to have that freedom, you have to set up boundaries. And that's the thing, is it's mainly mindset. You have to shift that mindset to be able to set those boundaries and uphold them. So yeah, they can be really hard to do, but the act of actually setting the boundaries is simple. I always tell people to set them early and often. And I don't mean reinvent the wheel all the time, but I mean establish them early with your clients and enforce them often. So I'm always telling people to have them everywhere it logically makes sense to have them. In your welcome packet, you need to set the tone for your communication. So I like to include an entire sheet about when they can expect a response from me, how I would like to communicate with them, and basically what my office hours are. But each boundary is going to be different. And again, you have to find what works for you and your business. Some boundaries that you need to really think about when setting it is those communication boundaries. Investment, that is such a huge one for people to enforce, because we tend to deal with imposter syndrome and people pleasing, and we like to discount things that we probably shouldn't discount. But I like to enforce this by basically, it's on your website.
Yeah.
When they're filling out their contact form, that last question should say, in a nutshell, hey, this is what you can expect to pay, and this is everything you need to know, so that they are agreeing to that stipulation. Then it's also in the contract, obviously. And another one that my clients personally, I deal with a lot of web designers, is revision requests. They get a lot of revision requests after projects are completed, or they get 3-page long documents requesting revisions. So with this being said, those are also boundaries that they need to set up ahead of time in order to alleviate that pain later on. So thinking about it, how would they request a revision? How many are they willing to give? And what happens if they want more?
Yeah, we're in the creative space, so the revisions thing can be tricky. And as you say that, it makes me think, there's like when a client exposes, it's like they expose a hole in your system. It's like they're only asking for this because you didn't tell them they couldn't ask for this. So I was trying something recently with sites where, because we do WordPress websites as well, and typically it's like writing the content, the actual copy of the pages that we can help edit the copy, but maybe it's not clear enough. But we don't write, like you have to write it and then supply it with exceptions, right? If they've asked us to do that, then we say, yes, it'll be, X amount of hours, here's the cost, that's fine. But once it's done and signed off and it's like, okay, this is now, it's not on our demo server, this is on your website, it's done, it's live. And this isn't, anyone who's listening that we're working with right now, by the way, we're not picking on you. Like 3 or 4 sites that we have in the mix, and I do have revisions coming in for all of them. It's sort of like, what is that process to say, this is now done? Like you need to have almost word, whether it's in the contract or when you have like the final sign off, like congratulations, your site is live. Moving forward, if you want to request revisions, this is how you do it. Click here, it will cost X or whatever, but something that has it in your workflow, how you want to ask for those, because yes, that can get a little bit like wacky.
Yes,
not just
absolutely.
with anything creative that you're, especially because design is kind of like very subjective, right? So sometimes we put together something that we think this is like the best social media graphic in the world, and the client says they like it, and then a week later it's like, oh, actually, could you change this color? And then you do that. Oh, actually, can you add this logo? Oh, I'm thinking I want my headshot on it now, and you're like please stop the revisions. But then if you really do look, if that's happening to you a lot, then you have to look at like, okay, well, what are my systems? Did I establish these boundaries? I guess I didn't, right? And then how do you have the kind of difficult conversations after? So I had a note somewhere here, taking calls was different. I'll mention that in a minute, but it was, how do you, if you haven't, so like I'm going into year 9 of my business, and I'm someone who's like, I will admit I'm awful with boundaries. So this is a really interesting topic. If you have not done that in the past, and now you have, hundreds of clients that have worked with you over the years that are used to a certain way of working. Example, I get text messages from my clients. Do I want that? Not really, but is that how they communicate with me and I just keep it going? Sure. And there's only a select few that are like, we'll call them like the VIP clients, I guess, right? Yeah. But if you've sort of set up, hey, you can email me your request whenever, I respond at 10:30 at night because I do and I shouldn't, or how they communicate with you and what your office hours. How do you go backwards? Like, is there a process or something that you recommend to people they do when they're like, okay, we didn't have these boundaries, but this is the box now?
Okay, so there's a couple different ways to do this. And
I know I'm putting you on the spot because this one is.
Oh, no, you're fine. So the thing is that every client is a fresh start. Set them now, write them in your contract, make sure they are included in that welcome packet or on that contact form. Make sure that you set them early and often because this is going to set the stage for them and their expectations as well. Now, with your clients that you have been working with a very long time, a lot of times we build this very almost intimate relationship with them, like a friendship almost. And you honestly want to address it in a casual and kind manner, but basically send them an email and state all of these things, like I'm going to be refreshing my business hours and things are going to be changing. This is what you can expect. And here's how to get a hold of me when you need to. Yeah. And that way you're kind of breaking it to them kindly, but setting that stage. The third thing that I tell everyone to do is create canned emails for even when you have set these boundaries. I don't want everyone to think that no one's going to push them, because that's not the case. Frankly, about 75% of your clients are actually going to read the entire contract or the welcome packet, and that's okay. So when they do ask for things that push these boundaries, have a canned email template set up that you have already written when you're not emotionally charged, so that you can easily just tweak it to their specific thing and send it. And that way you're not even giving yourself enough time to really fall back into your old ways. You know what I'm saying? Everything is already established. So you're enforcing that boundary on yourself as well as the client.
Yeah.
And that way you can do it in a way that's consistent with your brand voice, but also very empathetic, because whenever we are in a tough spot, our emotions tend to change the way we say things. And that can come across as rude sometimes, or it can come across as wishy-washy. So setting them up beforehand makes it easier, and it also just keeps that boundary strong.
I love it. So anyone who's listening who's like me, go add that stuff to your welcome pack of your contract. But I was actually even thinking of putting it like a blog post on my website so that people, they might just stumble across it. But I think you had it somewhere in our notes too. If you put that out there right away, like you're obviously going to have less of a challenge, and people respect maybe isn't the, well, I guess kind of like respecting your boundaries, right? If you don't respect them, they don't respect them. So if you just put it out there for like the world to see, you're telling, it's like you're telling the universe too, like this is what I want, like in this box, you know? And then it's more easy to direct them to as well. So, and I'm like that, the canned email, you know, we all get messages from, sometimes I get weird ones from people on my email list or someone who's downloaded it, and you can tell like, oh, this person had like probably a really bad day because I have no idea what they're upset about. But if I have those kind of like canned responses, it could just remove that emotion and me not, you know, I don't respond horribly back to them, but sometimes I want to, because you feel like you can feel attacked, right? Oh, this, you know, or if it's like when we go back to the, oh no, baby just fell in the background.
Oh.
Well, we scattered it out. Someone's there to rescue her, so we're okay. When we talk about like these revision requests, right? Even something like that with setting those boundaries and having canned responses for that, right? Saying, oh, thanks for sending this in. I see you're asking for, and then you can fill in the blank, right? X, Z. It's going to take me till like fill in the date, right? And it will cost X. Are you okay with that? Like give them the option back and forth. But if you have those kind of ready to go, I think that was, you know, one thing.
And that way that reestablishes the scope of the project.
Yes.
But also invites them to move forward if they want to. Yeah. And kind of helps you up sales. So
it has like a positive kind of effect as well. One thing that I do if there's an email that I'm feeling like particularly triggered by, I guess, is I read it and I just like walk away. I put it in like another folder, like to deal with later. And then I come back to it when I'm done everything else, unless I feel like I have to put out the fire, right, and respond right away. Because sometimes I feel like if we reply right away, it's not, anyway, it's not usually how we would approach it because our feelings are hurt, which is kind of, you know.
Yeah.
We have our fourth thing is established systems. But before we move on to that kind of fourth and final point, I wanted to add, when people are talking about they're structuring their day, like I'm going back to when they plan their time and when they're going to work, you know, for how long, that's okay. You added, well, it's different because of how, you know, some people are more productive at night, in the mornings, whatever. And I also wanted to add, it's going to look drastically different if you're a solopreneur or someone who is kind of in those first, I don't know, 1 to 3 years maybe, versus someone that's a little further along. So for me, like my goal for this year is to still have a profitable business, like a 6-figure or more business, but I don't want to work more than 2 hours a day. But some people might look at that and be like, well, that's insane. Like, how can you do that? Well, I have a team. So I have to think my time has to be more strategic. Yes, get on the sales calls, do the really fun stuff, you know, or those things that are like, these are the things that need me. Everything else, right, goes to the team and I help them do that. So anyways, if you're, you know, listening and trying to figure out how to schedule your time, if you have a team, make sure you kind of factor in and leverage like, well, where can I use the team and the time to communicate with them as well? Like, are you touching base with them? My team's all remote. So it's like, when are we going to hop on Zoom together? When are we going to have a weekly team meeting? That sort of thing.
Yeah. And just to kind of give perspective, I don't have a team. I am a solopreneur and I am in the first year of my business.
Yeah.
With that being said, my office hours are 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that's when my son is in school. So it's very strategic and it just happens to be when I'm most productive.
Lines up, the stars line up.
They really did.
Yeah.
But I also, because of my brain, sometimes that 5 o'clock rolls around and I am right in the middle of something and I have a hard time breaking in the middle of a project. So what I like to do and what I encourage other people to do is to close it down and take a break. So that's the time that I start dinner. So after dinner, then I kind of reevaluate, okay, do I still really, really want to go back to doing what I was doing, or can I go to bed? So I think that kind of helps that balance as well. And that's the whole thing with time freedom, is it's the freedom to choose when you want to work, not within the set amount of hours and only those set amount of hours.
Yeah. And again, it's like there's just no right or wrong. Like if you're starting out and it's, you have to work 10 hours a day to make it work, and then do that if that fits into your life. If you have, really random goals like me and you say, well, I want to work 2 hours a day or less. Yeah. That's after, we're in year 9. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't compare your like chapter 1 to someone's chapter like 50,
Yes. Apples and oranges.
Yeah. Like we're giving advice that can apply to everybody, anyone, or even if you don't have a business, you can still technically apply this to your life, right? In general. But if you're looking at, example schedules, think of like, well, do I have a life that's similar? Like when I look at some people that have, their businesses are wildly successful, and I go, well, yeah, but they don't have kids. So that's just not, it's not fair for me to compare my life to someone who has 10 hours a day to build because I don't have that. And that's okay. So anyway, just want to put that out there. It can look different.
I recently read an article in which they were interviewing millionaires, like self-made millionaires. And they were mostly men, but they were all saying that the reason they were successful was 14 to 18 hour workdays. Yeah. That is completely unobtainable for moms specifically, but the majority of people who have a family, even, dads, depending on what your life is, 14 to 18 hours is nothing but working and sleeping. And at that point, your business becomes your life and you have no freedom. Yeah. So I think it's really about just finding the right formula for you and your life experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So key. And the hustle culture makes me like crazy.
Me too.
Anyone listening that's, because I used to follow, people that were like, this is how you like build your business and get ahead. And I won't even name them, but the big marketing people that have that like super aggressive push, like do this. And I was just like, oh, it really like feels gross to me. It might work for people and that's cool. But for me, I was like, no, I don't want my business to run me. I want to run my business. Like that's why I got into it, to have more time, right?
Yes, it has to align with your values before anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we had one, I think last topic, which was established systems and automations. And, we've kind of touched on some, but I'll let you kind of dive in a little bit more to that. And then everyone who's still with us, we'll tell you how you can connect with both of us and what Shawnee offers, how she can help you. Let's do the established systems and automations.
So systems and automations could honestly be its own podcast episode. Like there's a lot to that topic. But mainly you can break it down into 3 different areas. What you can automate, so those really repetitive tasks that bring you absolutely no joy. And the key to this though is I like to ask 3 questions. One is, will I be more efficient if I automate this? Will it bring me joy to get this off my plate? And the last one is, will this be more effective if I automate it? Because there are certain things like client communication that I do not believe should be automated. Yeah. Now, that brings me to step number 3, which is templates. In your business, obviously, social media templates are huge. In mine, it's client communication emails. And for that, the reason behind that is people seek connection. Our human nature is to connect. And in a time where we are quarantining left and right, and there's this huge shift, people are sick of autoresponders. They just are. Survey after survey will show you that personalization is key to a higher ROI. It just is. So with that being said, the last thing to do is to take those things that you can automate, take the things that you have templates for, and the things that you have to do manually, and create a process to keep it all in line. Your processes basically work as a to-do list of sorts, a running to-do list. And this way you can make sure that you're touching on every single aspect of your business when and where you need to.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I'm trying to think of an example that we can, I think a lot of the people that listen so far are actually other creative businesses. So they're right in kind of your wheelhouse as well. So for us, we use Basecamp as our project management system, and we have project templates. So like you're saying there, but there are things within that template that are not automated. So the automated is, new social media marketing monthly client, duplicate this project. And then there's an onboarding task list. And it actually, each task has a video of how to do it. So over time, I've created those videos as I'm doing it myself, so that, because it is repetitive, so that I can now give it to the assistant on my team. I just go in there and I do one blanket to do that says, hey, new project for client XYZ. And then she duplicates it and goes through all those onboarding. But there is still a personal touch throughout, where there's an email to them saying, hey, so-and-so, welcome to the team. Here's how you access the project board. But they're all templates. And even the same thing in our, so that's like once they're a client. But in the initial phase, when we're doing, so for us, it starts with our free 10-minute coffee chat. So after that, it's like, okay, what do we do after that? So in the beginning, I was creating a new proposal for I think it was even using Google Docs. It was Microsoft Word because I hadn't switched over to my holy iMac yet. So it was like, I was reinventing the wheel with proposals every single time. I didn't quite have the templates down. That was in my early days, but now it's actually it could be a Google Doc as well, but it's a doc inside of Basecamp. And we literally have 4 templates: hourly client, social media, branding, website, and I can't remember the 4th one, but there is a 4th one. So whenever we have a new client, it's if at the end of the call, if they've said yes, please send me a proposal, we log into Basecamp, we click the 3 dots, duplicate, and then we change a few fields within the proposal. And we still layer in the personal touch. So rather than just sending them, hey, here's a link to your proposal, see you later, I actually record a little video. And like, pro tip for those sending proposals, this like will increase your closing ratio like gangbusters. So I record a video and it's like 5 minutes of me talking, and it's just me scrolling the proposal and just walking them through it basically. So saying, hey, here's, if you want to agree, here's the link at the bottom. And then I walk them through, here's the deliverables, here's the cost. I guess that's also my opportunity to talk about my boundaries. Maybe that lives in that video actually. But anyways,
probably after the
maybe after
proposal, but
only email me during this. I'm kidding, I wouldn't do that. But anyway, it's still an opportunity to highlight where they can find those. We won't call them boundaries in there, but whatever we name that, right? So there's an example. People are thinking through like, well, what is a system for my business? Or for you, maybe the word workflow for some people might make more sense. What is your workflow and the tasks within that workflow? Which one can be automated or not? And then there's I didn't put it in our notes, but I was actually working with it this morning. I quite often I thought we did have it where we were looking at like, how many systems do you have? Are they creating extra work? Do you have 4 systems there's overlap? So it was kind of like doing an audit, which I think is something you do with your clients. Maybe you can talk about that. But an audit of your systems, and then can you connect them? So you're doing less. It's usually just like the manual data entry type stuff. So for those of you who don't know what Zapier is, look at Zapier. We have use it and abuse it. We have different systems connected. So for example, if someone fills out a lead form, like from one of our Facebook ads, that like goes nowhere. It's so weird. Facebook doesn't like send that. It just lives in this like bizarre somewhere. So we have Zapier pull the data when someone subscribes, move them over to ConvertKit, which is what we use for email. That's one example. Otherwise, that would be manual. I'd have to go in and check for it. Or another one is, clients fill out a request for something. We have a little request form. Where what happens when they fill out that request form. So Zapier takes the info from the spreadsheet where the results are down and it pushes it into Basecamp and creates a to-do for someone on the team. So those are maybe examples of like an actual legitimate automation versus what is the system.
And an automation that streamlines and enhances your work as a team.
I think it's important with automations not to get like that shiny object syndrome. Like sometimes
don't automate everything.
don't try to automate things if you don't have to. It's only if you find, okay, I'm doing this all the time and maybe there's a better way that will make it faster. And consider, I don't know, you're a pro in this area, like what is the client experience of that automation? If it doesn't line up and it creates a bad experience for them, well, then it doesn't matter if it saves you time because you're not going to be able to keep that client long-term, right?
Yes.
So under establishing systems and automations, this might lead into kind of like your actual offer. Is that something that you do on, because I know you have these VIP days coming, which I'll let you talk about as well. But the done for you client experience and the 2-hour refreshes, is that something that you touch on in there? You look at their systems?
Okay, so the systems refresh package, basically, it's 2 hours where they send me a questionnaire beforehand. I look at their systems, and then on the call, we restructure those systems, tell them what to automate, all that good stuff. And then they get the recording of the call and also an actual workflow, an actual made workflow for them, but they actually have to implement it. Whereas the done for you is mainly for the client experience system, although there's one coming for everything. The client experience system is mainly done in a CRM, but this includes the entire workflow for the project. So everything you have to do, as long as everything that is being sent to the client and what they have to do in order for you to finish your job. That includes all the emails, the welcome packets, all that good stuff. And then I will be doing a complete business system setup, foundations, the whole 9 yards shortly, actually.
That's super exciting. And when you have that, you better believe I'll be booking that. In the refresh, like, is that something someone could take advantage of, whether they're new or maybe more established? Like where if I wanted to have someone come in and go, okay, Brittany, like, let's sit down for 2 hours and look at like, what the heck are all these systems? What is the purpose they're serving? Or is that your questionnaire is technically asking me that stuff in advance?
Well, yes, the questionnaire asks you in advance so that we can really narrow down where the immediate need is. And then we work on that system first. And then, if we have time, we'll move on to others, but it depends on, how bad it could be. Or how great it could be. Great.
Sometimes it might be just a matter of like, I'm thinking through the list of systems we use. I know there's a few like, we probably don't really need that. It might be adding a layer of complexity that just isn't necessary. We just had a need for it at some point in the past. And so we kind of kept it and worked it in. Even though it doesn't really work with where you're currently at. Streamlining is amazing. Like a system refresh, a 2-hour system refresh, it would be like an incredible investment for people to do at the beginning of each year or wherever their fiscal year, like where it starts or wraps up. I know for me, that would be like hugely beneficial because every year things change for us. Like, okay, this package is changing a little bit based on the needs of the clients or the membership, for example. But then when I launched the membership in September, it's pretty recent. It was just like 1, 2, 3, go, hit the ground running. Like I'm a big believer just put it out there and then figure out the pieces as you go. And that's what we did. But that it's great for building momentum and not sitting on your idea forever. And it's been successful and it's growing. I love it. But definitely there's like, oh man, now we like launch it, it's out there, and we have to go backwards and build out some of these systems to streamline it. So,
and then once you get feedback from your clients and things change. I mean, with course creators, memberships, all of it, things change from year to year. And it's great to do a systems audit at least once a year so that you can look at what's working and what's not within the membership and within your business.
Yeah, amazing. So for people that want to connect with us online, for you, Instagram, you're at Shawnee Rose Consulting, correct?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your website, I will put it in the show notes as well. And then for me, anyone not connected, you can find me at Empty Desk Solutions. If you Google Empty Desk Solutions, you'll find anything that has to do with us. Instagram is where I like to try and connect with everybody. And oh, you know what? There was one thing that I should have addressed earlier that I actually wanted to bring up, because talking about times you take calls, and I know we're going like out of alignment here with our notes, but I'm going for it. So where did I put it? Somewhere it's here. So I haven't got to the point where I've looked at my schedule and gone, okay, this is where I'm the most productive. However, I did kind of note it. I tried to take a look at when am I feeling like really stressed, like the days, and looking at, well, what made me so stressed in that day? And I noticed, oh, it's because I have all these calls with current clients and consults scattered throughout the week, 15-minute block here, and then an hour break, and then an hour call. And it was really random. So I thought, okay, what would happen if I just lock down my availability in my calendar where people book and say, I'm only going to take calls 1 or 2 days a week. So right now, depending on when my husband's on shift at the fire hall, I take calls usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. So right now my calendar on Tuesdays is like, it's crazy. Like I might have 10 calls in a row and it's kind of exhausting, but there's sort of like a method behind the madness. So maybe this will inspire some of you to try it as well. I didn't want to do Mondays because Mondays I'm trying to, make my plan for the week, regroup.
Yeah.
So Tuesdays but I also want to do it early enough in the week so that gives me the opportunity on the call to say, I will have this to you by the end of the week.
Yes.
I am notorious for not setting like a large enough buffer of how long I need to complete something. I want to get it to them early, not late. So anyways, I thought I would just throw that in there for any other creative businesses, right? That are
absolutely
trying to figure out like, how do I do this with the calls in that time? You don't, even if you have your business hours set and let's say you go, okay, I'm only going to work between 9 and 12 every day. That's fine. Doesn't mean you have to take calls every day between those 3 hours. You can have those streamlined on certain days and times as well.
Absolutely.
Do that, or do you take your calls kind of whenever during your business hours?
So I generally take my calls Tuesday through Thursday while my son is at school. So if I'm not on a call, then I'm working on client work. Now, depending on the day, sometimes I will continue working afterwards because my actual work hours are till 5, but on my website and stuff, it says 3. So that way, those are the hours that I'm available. And then those other extra 2 to 3 hours, I have to really focus on what I need to get done, whether that be client work or work on my own business. But yes, I have set hours on set days that I allow client conversations just because that's the way I work best.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. I'm glad we could address that because that actually has come up. I've had a few people asking, not just clients asking why I have availability only certain days, but sometimes when people book consults or sometimes I have other female entrepreneurs wanting to start a similar business, like a social media marketing agency. They're like, oh, how do you book your consults and when do you do that and whatever. So anyways, I like to share the logic behind it. This is why I do it this way, because I was going crazy doing calls all the time. So that's awesome. Anyone who wants to follow you again at Shawnee Rose Consulting, be on the lookout for her VIP days. And can people book you right now for your are you fully booked? Can they book you on your site for your 2-hour refreshes?
Yes. they can book for February for the 2-hour refreshes. I only have one spot available for the Done For You client experience, but then I'll be booking up into March.
Awesome. And if anyone's listening to this later, go to Shawnee's website, find her website when you look her up on Instagram, and then find when she's booking for those days. So amazing. Thank you for listening. Thanks for coming on. I would love to have you back and talk about different types of systems. So we will have to
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mom Biz Cafe. See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Until next time.